Hey, what's up everybody? Ed, Pond Professor here, back on the Frankfurt project. This was a project I'm working on with the Pond Beyond, Brent. This was the incredible intake bay, which we've already seen the vlog on that. But now I want to show you some of the stuff that we're doing for the stream and waterfalls, which is really what's going to tie this thing together and make this project pop. Rain all morning, but we got to get the project going. We set a bunch of rock on the lower end of the stream earlier today. What we just had to do now was put in a couple chases, conduits underneath the stream. We got these marked over here just for future access. We have electric as well as there's irrigation and a bunch of other stuff. We still need to try to get some sort of access going across. I'm gonna grab a bucket load of crushed gravel, put it here in the middle of our stream. Remember, this is where our bridge is gonna go across. So this is just gonna be temporary access. Brent just went and got some chains. We are going to chain up these big steel plates, put those going across. The gravel will help give it a little bit of extra support here in the middle. This will allow us access going back and forth so we can continue doing all of our work up through here. All right, here's our first load of gravel. So we got our steel plate set. We have the gravel bed underneath, so we have really good support. We need it wide enough, 9 feet, to take this machine over it, 30-some thousand pounds. We chose our framing rock. We have a couple challenges here. One is we have a tight spot to work with. We have a bridge coming across, so we have to be conscious of the location of the bridge. We also want a waterfall adjacent right next to the bridge to create the drama that we're looking for. Remember, the whole goal is we're trying to take advantage of this beautiful slope that we have, trying to tie in with the existing terraces that have been created. There's going to be an upper pool tucked in right back over in this section here. So Brent right now is strapping up our rock.
Initially, when you're walking up to any type of rock, in your head you kind of size it up for the center load of balance. This rock with the mass to it is going to require 2 straps. We just don't have enough to choke down on the rock, which prevents any movement, so that's not adequate enough to be able to swing the rock, turn the rock into place.
So I also noticed that you got this just barely strapped on here, so explain that.
Yeah, so with us having the choke point in the middle of the rock, obviously you want to have it on as solid placement as you can, but as this thing cinches up, it's naturally going to pull into the rock, so it's not going to pull away. So if this cinch point, if these were spread out, it could want to pull this straight off. That kind of aids us in getting the straps off after the fact. If you put the straps underneath the rock too much, they're impossible just about to get off.
Makes sense. And then same thing over on this side. Yep. Okay.
Yep, just barely hugging the outside and it'll snug in tight as we lift.
All right, let's do it. As this rock's being lifted, Brent will give signals to Kevin, who's the operator, just to make sure everything's good or bad as it's lifting up. We're always looking at it from all directions. Looks perfect.
What we do is, before we start swinging this into position, the better placement level-wise we could have the rock before we set it. It's going to make it easier when we set it in its placement. If it was coming in crooked, we'd be fighting the rock to straighten it out to set it.
So also the framing rock sets the stage for everything. So this is a carefully chosen rock. It's got a lot of character on it. It's also at the right elevation to make sure that we could bring in our waterfalls. But look at the character on that stone.
Our final position with this rock, we have 2 things to take into account here. We want to have an impressive waterfall approximately this height, with viewing areas from the homeowner's office, which is right there, and this area below his office is going to be a future paver patio. And then the second thing is, how do we transition off of this rock? We have to transition into our bridge to a retaining wall, which is going to dead end into the existing retaining wall.
So we found a really interesting rock for our waterfall. That's going to be our top. We're going to have fast moving water coming through this little notch over here. The problem is it's a little bit wider than we need. This particular fall we're thinking just really thick, heavy water. So we're going to choke it down. The flow rate that we have on this project, we're looking at over 700 gallons a minute. So that's 42,000 gallons per hour minimum. So if we choke this down, this will probably end up being closer to 4 foot wide. So that water is going to be solid 2 inches thick. So it'll be a really nice effect. You can see we have a seam right here going all the way through the rock. We're going to try to crack it. So we're going to try to deepen these cracks up a little bit, and then we'll take the excavator maybe and give it a bump. As you can see, that fracture goes all the way through the rock. So again, we're just manipulating a little bit with what nature has created. That is gonna go right next to that big rock over there, and that's gonna create this beautiful fall that's gonna be visible from this stairway, from the terrace right here, as well as office and other viewing areas here on the property. My thought is to have on the opposite side of this big rock is another massive stone, so this water really sweeps and turns and churns as it goes underneath that big bridge. The nice thing about that bridge, it's got a nice arch to it, so you will be able to see underneath it. So once that big rock is set, we're gonna continue with some more stonework up to the edge of the stairs. We'll drop in a few more rocks there. It's gonna be a pool here. Another series of terraces and waterfalls coming down. Big pooling area there in the middle as we work our way to the top. Success. Now we can continue with waterfall construction. That split perfectly. Took a little bit longer than we thought, but that was that's a thick piece of stone. It's 24 inches thick and 30 inches wide. But we followed that natural seam, whacked down it a little bit with the excavator. We just continued with some little wedges and stuff like that, and it let loose. One of our challenges that kind of popped up again, which is typical on any type of a large project like this where you have multiple contractors in place, is access for everyone. So we're popping back up here where we did our retaining wall. We're building up the pad right now, so this is going to be the upper pool. We're set the elevation off of this dance floor area. We also set some big boulders on the edge of that, so that new floor is going to come right up to the base of all those rocks. We have a series of aqua blocks over here. Those are going to get laid on the bottom of this. So we set that elevation, anticipating the aqua blocks, having 3 to 4 inches of gravel and then a couple inches of water. So we set all those elevations in place. We're compacting it. Now we're going to come in, just because this is all kind of nasty soil, we're going to come in here with a layer of sand that'll allow us to grade everything off at appropriate elevation, get our fabric, liner, and all that stuff in place, and then we're going to start making our connections for our plumbing, which is going to come in from this corner into the bottom. Aqua blocks are in place. We have right where that stack is sitting right there, that's where our large stack slate urn is going to go, maybe a little bit more that way, but we kind of laid everything out. We're at the appropriate elevation. We have a secondary pump vault in here, so this pump vault is actually going to feed just these decorative urns. All of these 3-inch pipes are coming from our intake bay that's already been set, which you've seen all the construction on that. We're at our next step, our heavy fabric on the bottom. This is really nasty clay and garbage soil. We have our rubber liner, another layer of the heavy fabric. We laid out our aqua blocks at the appropriate elevation. Now we're filling in between everything with river stone. That's going to give us a little bit more of a pooling area. That'll be a good bed for the next layer of stone that we do inside of there. We have to move to the other side. We're going to reposition those 3-inch pipes, and then we are going to make a watertight connection between the rubber liner and the pipe system. We're going to put in a large piece of seaming tape, cover tape. That'll increase the strength of the rubber liner a little bit, give us a little bit more bite for the bulkhead fittings. These fittings over here, these are bulkhead fittings. These work on a compression type of a system. It's a threaded body, so you have internal and external threads. There's a rubber gasket with this, so the rubber gasket will go against where the water's at. So that's going to be positioned like this. So what we'll do is we'll position everything in place, we'll compress it down. That rubber gasket will compress itself up against the rubber liner and the cover tape that we put in place. And then we have a threaded connection that we could come in with a male pipe thread adapter that would allow us to connect back up to the 3-inch pipes. So then what we'll do is we're going to have 4 3-inch pipes. You can see what I did over here. I cut some holes in the back of those aqua blocks, and actually those holes go through a couple different layers there. So we're going to be blasting water inside of there. The reason I don't want to just have it shoot inside or kind of dump into the side without cutting a hole in it is if you get any leaf debris that goes through from the pump, it could clog everything up and it'll back the system up. So this will allow any debris and stuff like that to settle out inside of there. And again, that's a fail-safe. So all of that stuff should be taken care of down over here by our intake bay. day. So that's going to do a really, really good job of pre-filtering everything. But inevitably, there's going to be little bits and pieces that get through as we're taking those necessary precautions at this time. So what we're going to try to do is get the rest of the rock work in place, and then we're going to start setting our stack slate urns up in here. That's really going to make this project pop out. Because most of this feature is visible from down below, we really want to create something for this upper area. They have the swimming pool, the outdoor bar, the outdoor kitchen, all those different things that are really going to create a really cool outdoor living space here. We just installed our cover tape. So this is a 12-inch wide piece. This is kind of be like a little bit of a manifold area. You can see we use, so this is the components of our bulkhead fitting. We have the body itself with all the threaded components. We have the nut, and then there's a gasket material. So this gasket's gonna go on the water side. So that'll go on the inside of this reservoir. We've used this as a template to mark the liner. So you can see we just kind of marked all those holes out. Now we're gonna come in, we will carefully cut each one of these holes out. We'll install the bulkhead fittings. We'll tighten it up with a couple pairs of channel locks, and we should be in good shape, and we'll have a good watertight connection. So the holes have been cut. Now we're coming in with the bulkhead fittings. We thread them through. We have the nut is going to be on the outside. That's going to be against the area where the tape is at, because that's the area that's turning. So we're tightening this section. The rubber gasket stays like that. That's going to go on the inside where the water's at. Once we get these tightened up, we'll be able to adapt them with our pipe fittings, connect them to our pipes over on this side, and then we'll be set for water to flow from here up into the reservoir. This is going to be the start of not only the fountain, but also this main waterfall. All right, it's a wrap for the day. I can't even see myself here. This is that big rock that we broke the corner off of. Then we reestablished a new piece next to it that actually has a finished face. There will be water coming off of here. Water's gonna jump into this little pool. We will use our waterfall foam right here in this little joint. So this will actually pool up. Water will come down this mossy face. We're gonna do another chunk of rock back behind here. Water's gonna drop into here, and from this angle, it's gonna well up and it's gonna be roaring through here. I like the look of all this. I wanna add one more element of interest here, and that's because we have this really nice mossy piece here. This is kind of a nasty face. So when we're looking at stuff, we're always looking at not individual rocks, but an individual composition of everything. So you're looking at key components of individual rocks. So we chose that because it has all that character up here on the top. The bottom half we're gonna hide. Possibly getting a log, kind of a root wad type thing over in here, kind of come across here, and then tie into this. So all of that water, a lot of action is going to dump into a little pooling area. It'll well up and then kind of blow over again over this log. This is going to kind of create that babbling brook type of an effect, and that's because it's adjacent to this bridge area. We don't want a high waterfall. We want something that fits with the space. I love this kind of this broken overhang. We got a ton of character on the top of this rock, but from the look of this, with all that water rushing through here, it's gonna look like pieces of rock have literally just broken away over time. So we're trying to replicate what actually happens in river systems. Now this backside, when I said I broke that big chunk off, it's because we didn't like the look of that. We also needed something that came up higher to divert the water that way. We created that little pooling area right there. So now what we're gonna do is we will take our liner, we're gonna backfill up against those rocks, we'll create a little planting area right in here, and this is really gonna look awesome. We still have to do a retaining wall going off of that big rock, kind of going out in that direction, and then that bridge is going to be on the other side. So we're trying to create terraces and interest, pockets, pools, waterfalls, all these different elements that are actually tying together. Hopefully next time it's going to be a little drier, but hey, it is spring here in the Midwest, but we're having fun. All right, hopefully you're enjoying it, and we will see you on the next time when we come in and start to foam things up and continue working our way up.